Welcome to the Edge Insider Podcast.
Welcome back to the Edge Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Kellyanne Roberts, and I'm joined here by head coach Doug Plumb. Doug, what's it like to not to be in St. John's, but to be back in St. John's and to be in the head coach position?
It's been great. It's been great. I mean, I think last year, Jeff gave me a lot of just responsibility. So I kind of got a little bit of a taste of it last year, but until you're, they say in sports, that's the biggest 12-inch shift. So it's been great and challenging at the same time. But yeah, I mean, just being in St. John's is fantastic. The fan support that we have here is pretty phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it, so happy to be back.
You had a big transitioning role, and it came in the middle of the summer here. And so what was that like? Because you had to get out there and recruit and do it all on your own now.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it was a tight timeline, but it was way less tight than what we had last year. Last year, we've talked about it before, but we had like 3 weeks to figure out not only who we're going to sign, but like, what's our logo? What's our team colors? What are we all about? Like, we had no idea. So it was a condensed time period, but compared to last year, it was a bit of a breeze. And you also had, you had protected players this time. Last year, we had nothing. We literally had go get the 12 best players you can find in August. So it was a challenge, but it was definitely easier than last year.
You had a lot of returning parts this year as well, which I guess helped big time. You had Carl English and you had Steve Marcus and all of that. How did, it's a team effort here all around, and we can definitely see that on the court, but how does that translate in the office?
I think just continuity, like when you get a chance to understand how to work with certain people and kind of what makes them tick, and just establish kind of a baseline of your working dynamic. It's not as much trial and error at the beginning, so that helped us for sure. I mean, having Steve come back, he's like my right-hand man. He's my guy, but it was for sure massively beneficial because he knows the way I like things done, and I don't have to kind of micromanage him in every aspect. I can empower him to, and I still get the same results. So it was huge having guys coming back that you're familiar with.
This season, not starting out as hot as the last season, but now we're here on a pretty good stretch, and I guess the team looks like this is it. This is in place now. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. I mean, the start of our year was crazy. I mean, we had, say 12 weeks to figure out what we want to do, and then you make this master plan, and nothing ever really turns out the way you want it to. And we had a couple roster surprises, and Carl went down with an injury, and you kind of had to reshuffle the deck. Funny, we were 1-5. We actually had a positive plus minus, so that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to figure it out. I still, as a coach, you're never really happy. I mean, we're still working in pieces, right? So we're winning. Sometimes winning can mask certain things, and losing can expose them. Now, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. So we still got a lot of room to grow, but at least it's better to be on the winning side for sure.
Your coaching style very much seems to be a marathon, not a sprint, a marathon, getting the plays down and the endurance down and working complex systems this year more so than last year. Was that a bit challenging bringing into this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big reason why we struggled early, because we had all this training camp to put in, kind of the plan that I put in place this summer. And then you got a bunch of pieces moving, and your practice times are challenged, guys getting in and out with injuries and all that stuff. So we actually kind of had to simplify it. And now we're starting to build back up again, which is good. I mean, not from just a personal happiness standpoint, when I can kind of see my plan come to fruition, it's good, and we're still getting there.
Is that partly where this winning streak is coming from now, is being able to work these complex systems in a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that basketball, it's not rocket science, but more than anything, more than even any system, it's just players understanding how to play with each other, and that just takes time. Beginning of the season, and like I said, not only did we have a lot of new faces, but then we couldn't even practice together. We didn't have any exhibition games. We had nothing. So you kind of stumble out the gates, and then guys get healthy, and you never really just say, okay, we're gonna implement this all in 1 or 2 weeks here. It's kind of just a flow throughout the year, and you're constantly adjusting and tweaking what's working, what's not working. But yeah, I'm happy with where we're at. Like I said, we got a long way to go still. Playoffs are still a long ways out, but going 10-1 our last 11 is it's positive. So
the Edge Insider Podcast. We'll be right back.
Carl English, Glen Big Baby Davis, and the rest of your St. John's Edge are back in action against the rival London Lightning, January 19th at 6 p.m. and January 20th at 3 p.m. Get your tickets at Mile 1 box office by calling 576-7657 or at mileonecenter.com.
Welcome back to the Edge Insider Podcast.
With the roster and having injuries come in and out, it seems like you get a groove going and then you're hit with an injury here. But it looks like the team is back running in the healthy area. How does that feel coming home now?
Well, I mean, as much as I complain about our scheduling from time to time, it's a little bit crazy. You have 5 games in 9 days and then you're off for 10 days. It's been a little bit of a gift and a curse. We get a chance to kind of, after that crazy road trip we had, come home and take 4 to 5 days and get guys healthy and stuff like that, and plan our practices accordingly and build back up. So that's, I mean, like I said, it's helped us and it's hurt us because you get on this hot streak and then you have to stop again. And that's a little bit frustrating, but I mean, we're excited for this weekend. We haven't had a home game, I think, in like 30 days or something crazy I was reading yesterday. So we're for sure excited to get back in front of our fans and play.
4 games in 20 days. That's a lot of break time in there. I'm guessing a lot of practice time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's probably too much. Like I said, sometimes you can only, especially when you get going as a player, like you get to a point in the season where you realize, okay, we're starting to figure it out. And then the schedule kind of shuts you down. The challenge then is to not only get guys healthy, to re-immerse or immerse guys in, but to keep the motivation high, to show up every day and, kind of have that excitement and youthful exuberance for your job every single day. So that's a little bit of tinkering in the last 10 days, but I feel good about where we're at. I mean, we started 1-5, and now other teams Moncton was faltering a little bit, so we're fortunate that now we're, right back at the top of the standings. So we have history with London, so we're definitely motivated to come out and play this weekend.
Lots of history there, but a lot of guys on this team that weren't there for the beginning of this history. One of those vital players being Glen Davis. Can you speak to, I guess, the shift in the roster when he came in?
It's funny. I was talking to Steve about this today. Usually when you have a guy like that, a personality like that, or someone who's played at that high of a level, Carl is obviously a different situation because he's from here and he's got the pride of, he wants to play for Newfoundland. But you get a guy like Glen, or I had Royce when I was in London. It's sometimes a challenge because you don't really know which way it's going to go. You hope that they're going to come in and take a leadership role and really empower the group, but you never really know until they're here. And when you're in contract discussions and negotiations, everyone's your best friend. And then you get to find out people's work habits and how you mesh with their personality. And sometimes it can go the other way. With Glen, it's been completely the opposite. I told Steve yesterday, I said, buddy, even if he didn't play one game or hadn't been producing in games, he still would be a massive piece. Because his energy and just like his knowledge for the game and the presence that he brings, it's rubbed off on the guys for sure. So it's been fantastic.
When he first came into the first game he did play, that's a lot of first there, but I think he hit the court for not even 2 minutes, but just the momentum shift and the fans and everybody got into it. I guess that was probably a big part in him coming here as well, was that he did bring this experience and he did know the game so well to lead into others. But can you speak, I guess, to that 2 minutes in that game?
Well, you know what? I wasn't going to play him because he was sick. And I mean, if you look at it from like a large scale perspective, the guy hadn't played in 3 years. And I don't care who you are, how good you are. If you don't get real-time reps, you lose your rhythm and conditioning, and it's a struggle. And I didn't want to expose him and put him in a tough spot where, you got this big name and then you come in, the fans are expecting the world, and put a person into a situation where they would fail, He wanted to play, of course, but he was also realistic where he understood, okay, it's a challenge, maybe give myself a week and a half here, get my legs under me, and then start to build up our minutes. And in that game, we were in foul trouble and nothing was going well for us. So I looked down the bench. I thought, what the hell? I might as well throw him in. The fans were on us. And I said, I looked down at Stu was here and Steve was there. I said, what the hell? Let's go. So I said to Glenn, I said, go ride the bike. Oh, ran back to the locker room, ride the bike. And then the fans were going back and forth. We hit a point in the game that it was real stagnant. And we didn't really have too much to lose because we were losing momentum. And I felt like our bodies were just running out of gas. And we threw them in. And then that kind of injection of energy from the crowd was phenomenal. And he came in, I think he did like that patented spin that he does baseline. The place erupted. And then we had momentum again. So he, and ever since then, like every game, his minutes have gone up and his production's gone up. Now, last game I probably played him too much, but it was a double overtime game at the end of 10 days. So you do what you got to do to get a win. But, I mean, he went like 4 minutes, 9 minutes, 13 minutes, 21 minutes, I think 25, and then up to 39. So in every game he's played, better and better and better and better. We sat him out the one in Cape Breton just because, as much, even though he is a very high-level athlete, you can't put someone's body through that hasn't played the game in a long time. So but we've been happy. I mean, for lack of a better term, we've been thrilled with having him here.
He's come a long way in just a few games here. What are your expectations now heading into the rest of the season? I mean, obviously on this win streak here and playing at home must contribute to this next part of the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, from an expectation standpoint, I expect us to keep getting better every day. I know that's kind of a sports cliche, but like I said, I don't think that we're at where we want to be at yet because there has been a bunch of ads and we're still trying to shuffle the deck here. Like Carl was out, then we figured out, guys, as an athlete, you always kind of want to know where my minute's going to come from, what does coach expect from me, yada, yada, yada. And now we got to get him back in and a couple moves and stuff like that. So it's always a constant reshuffling. Being at home is massive because, just familiarity. But getting these 4 games would be huge because our month of February is pretty treacherous. You never know, I mean, knock on wood, the way that it's going to go with injuries and all that stuff. And the month of February is going to be really tough. And then the month of March, we're actually not on the road at all. We're at home for the entire month. We have like 8 home games. So, I mean, my outlook is take care of home. And then this practice time that we've had here in the last 12 days will be really beneficial to set us up for success when you go on the road. Because the month of February, we're not going to have much time to practice. Just like before this break, we basically had no time to practice. Like Glen Davis hadn't practiced with us until we got home. We were literally putting things in on the fly, watching film, obviously relying on his wealth of knowledge from just playing so much high-level basketball and then putting stuff in shoot-arounds. So, I mean, time will tell. But the biggest thing they say in pro basketball is health. So having that 12-day break, it might compromise a little bit of kind of our flow. We always start out the gates rusty a little bit often after breaks like that, but being able to head into a stretch like we have in February, being healthy, and then understanding we can come home in March, sleep in your own bed the whole month, really start to manage minutes and figure out where guys fit in and all that stuff, it should put us in a good spot to finish the year.
Knowing that the schedule is like this, it's pretty tumultuous. It's up, it's down, it's home, it's away. I guess that comes back to your practice style big time then where it's a marathon.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to be smart about that stuff too, because even when you get home, then you can't blitz the guys. You can't just kill them, right? You got to take into account rest, and it's all about time management though here at this level, because as much as the guys, all they got to do every given day is focus on basketball. It also does take a toll on their body. So you got to figure, okay, what can I put in place with the injuries we have? With where we're at in the season, with all the moves that are going on and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure, you got to be patient, but you just got to keep working every day and find an angle every day, even if it's not on the court sometimes.
I know that the team goal is obviously a championship. I'm not even going to bother with that question, but as a personal goal and your first head coaching role here with the Edge, what do you plan on taking away from it?
I think more than anything is an appreciation for how challenging it is to lead a team. And not just like a sports team. I'm talking about just all the complexities of what goes into managing each and every single person and putting them in a spot to succeed, and how much energy that really takes, and how much you have to sympathize with the individual, put yourself in their shoes, but then I guess give grace and still expect excellence, and kind of that whole dynamic of how does that work? Because it's not like there's no guidelines for that, right? It's all feel. It's all based on gut decisions every day. And that's been a challenge, but it's also been fun. So probably that's the biggest takeaway.
That's where we'll wrap it up for today. And thanks to our coach, Doug Plumb, for being our guest on this first episode of Edge Insider. I'm Kellyanne Roberts, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Edge Insider Podcast.